I have been trying to figure out my next knitting project, and I am failing right now. Hello friends, I'm Lindsay Crane. These are my retro craft dreams, and this is All My Stitches. This is my crafter's log, essentially, where I usually reserve for discussing all of my projects that are going on behind the scenes that don't end up having their own videos. However, I feel like that's going to be shifting a bit, at least for this year. So in January, I started what I have been calling Operation Clean Slate. At first, I really just wanted to finish up a lot of my works in progress, get them off my plate, and, start fresh with new projects. And so I finished up a whole bunch of little quick ones, felt really good. Had a couple of bigger ones that took me a little longer, but I knocked those off my list too. But then I realized I also have a lot of projects that, although I had not started them, I had been trying to or wanting to for a very long time. So I also want to take this year to knock those things out as well. I have a few projects that I've been trying to get started on for the last couple of weeks, and I started swatching and kind of kept running into some issues where the swatches weren't coming out exactly how I wanted. So I'm going to go over some of these project ideas, and I might need your help. I built Swatch City. I built Swatch City on knits and pearls. This is my second time trying to film this video. I started it the other day and was really failing at talking succinctly about each of these things. And I ran out of time before I even got halfway through what I wanted to talk about. So I'm trying it again. One real quick thing to get out of the way, a follow-up from my last video. If you watched the one where I crocheted an edging on a scarf, at the end, I wasn't really happy with my tension in my stitches, and I also had like 18 grams of yarn left that I was trying to use up, and I was trying to decide if I wanted to redo it, but I didn't have time for that video. Well, I have redone it. It is a little bit better. Not entirely. I think my tension on my pickup round of this cream yarn is what is actually a little bit too tight, but it is a lot better. And I only have 8 grams of yarn left, so I managed to use 10 more grams of yarn. And it is a little bit better. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, at least 4 knitting projects that I've been trying to figure out. So let's start with some follow-up on my novelty yarn stash. If you watched that video where I went through some of my 20-year-old novelty yarn, stuff I bought in like 2005, 2006, I was trying to figure out what to do with some of it. And one of them, I kind of had an idea, but I needed to find a pattern. Another one, I figured out in the editing process, not only what it was, because I didn't know at the time I was filming that what this yarn was, figured out what the yarn was, and had an epiphany about what I wanted to make with it. And so I got really excited about both of these projects. And they are not working out as I had hoped. So let's start with the chenille yarn. I have a whole mess here of yarn and swatches. Here we go. There's a sample of the other colors. So I have this in 2 colors. 1 ball of each. I weighed them together. So I am starting with about 155 grams of this. This is Patons Bohemian, Patons North America. You do find different yarns available for Patons North America versus Patons UK, which actually we are going to get to even more in one of the other projects I'm going to talk about. Oh, wow. 3 of these projects are using Patons yarn. Didn't even notice that. Okay, well, that's interesting. Okay, so when I was editing that video, I decided I would really love the idea of turning this into a 70s inspired, wavy, stripy vest. Now, I have a very limited quantity of this, so the first thing I decided is that I would probably have to knit it so that the yarn would go faster, because crochet uses a lot more yarn. I also decided I was going to need to knit it on larger needles, again, in order to make more fabric out of this limited quantity of yarn. So the first thing I did, let me find the bottom of a very large swatch here. Oh boy. Okay, which ones are connected? And who's connected to who here? Okay, fine. Just I'll get in my lap. Okay, just fine. Be that way. This is a mess. The first thing I did was try out my larger needles. So here I've just got stockinette stitch I did on a size 13 needle. Don't remember the millimeters of that. That's probably looking the best, but I thought I probably was going to need to make the fabric bigger. So here I did my size 15 needles. You'll probably notice I'm rowing out really bad too. And at this point I was not worrying as much about tension. I just wanted to see how big the stitches were going to be on each of these needles. And then in this part, I found I had size 17 needles, rowing out super bad, and I don't like it. Anyway, so that was the first thing I did, was just like testing needle sizes in a stockinette stitch. But what I wanted was some kind of wavy stripe. I also felt like something with a more open stitch would again get me more fabric out of the limited quantity of yarn. So I went digging through my books, looking specifically at the knitting portions, and in, what volume is this? This is volume 6 of Stitch by Stitch from Torstar Books. And in it we have all of this. So we've got a pattern for, well, this is a chevron scarf and skirt. I didn't really bother doing the chevron because, like I said, I feel like a more open stitch is going to make more fabric. So what I did was, here we have a shale pattern, like just the stitch pattern, and down here is shale and rib stitch pattern. So I did a test swatch of each of these. So this is what they look like. Hopefully we're on camera because I can't show you what I'm showing you. So this is the first one of those, the shale pattern. This is 2 repeats. And then this one is 1 repeat of the shale and rib. Am I showing you the right side? I cannot tell because this yarn is just, there's no stitch definition. So it's kind of pointless to worry about something that needs stitch definition, but I was looking at something for more of an open stitch. The problem with these is they're going to use up a lot more yarn than I would like. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and we have some super curvy lines here. The pattern is just way too pronounced on these. They're not going to work. So I actually recently acquired this pattern, and no, I'm not doing this pattern, but I took inspiration from the slip stitch striping here and thought that might work and might get me something that resembles a nice wavy stripe without using any additional yarn. So I went back to my stockinette swatch and I started, hang on, we are just not in it to win it. So I went back to this one and I started trying that out. Now down here, I'm still on the size 17 needles. And again, I'm not liking that so much. I played a little bit with doing shorter stripes. This one is just 2 rows, so a knit and a purl row. And when I had half of the next pink one done, it was kind of looking more like a checkerboard. So I went back to the longer ones. And one thing that I decided was that if I did the slip stitch on a purl row, then I didn't have to worry nearly as much about rowing out. Although I do still have a purl row in between. The slip stitch rows being in a purl row, I actually needed to stretch my pearls out more rather than tighten them like I actually normally have to do. So I feel like that works. But I'm still not really feeling the stockinette. So I'm not sold on this yet. Regardless of how this works out, it's still not going to be enough for an entire vest once you take into account ribbing and, you know, neckline and armholes. And I thought about maybe getting some more chenille yarn. So I live in a place with very limited shopping options when it comes to yarn. Well, anything really, but especially yarn. There's like a Walmart and a Meijer, and Michael's is an hour away. So I wasn't really sure what I was going to do until somebody reminded me that the Dollar Tree does sell yarn. So I went down there and I did find the color that I needed. This is Premier Just Chenille, and I think this chocolatey brown might actually work. So I thought what I could do is use this for all of the ribbings, and I could do a really long waist ribbing, and that could help the stripy portion go further. So I'm really liking that idea, but here is my problem with that. I did a 1x1 rib swatch in this chenille. Now, this I did in a larger needle, decided I didn't like it, so I went down a needle size. What am I on? This is an 8. What is that, 5mm? And this is really doing my head in because it is not behaving like ribbing at all. Anybody out there working with chenille in knitting, especially, if you can give me any insights, this is not working right now, and I'm not entirely sure what to do. So basically, it's not behaving like ribbing. It's just flat. I don't understand why, but my 1x1 ribbing stitches are not cinching in at all. They're just flat. And I don't know if that's gonna work for this. And so I'm trying to figure out what to do here. But I do think that'll work nicely. Like, I think that looks nice enough, right? I think that works. I just don't like the way it's turning out. So the bummer is I thought this was going to be a project I could just whip up really fast, even though I have to basically write the pattern. I basically have to create this pattern. I thought I was going to be able to work it up really fast because I'm working on big needles and it's going to be a relatively small piece, being just, you know, a vest, but it's just being a headache. And also now I'm wondering if maybe I should try crochet. I mean, I think chenille works better in crochet in general, but I don't know if I have enough yarn to crochet a whole vest in this, especially since I still want the waviness part. I don't want just straight stripes. But maybe if there's an open enough stitch that can give me that effect, I don't know. So I might be back to the drawing board on this one, but I couldn't do any more swatching until I unravel these swatches because I am out of ends to work from. So, oh, and then there's the other issue of stitch count. If I'm going from a really small stitch count here on the main body of my work to a really large stitch count for the ribbing, like that is backwards from anything I've ever done before. And I don't really know how to make that work. And that's partly why I hesitate to go even smaller on my needle size for this ribbing, because then I'd need even more stitches. But it's not behaving like ribbing. And I don't know how to change that, or if it even can change. Maybe this is just what chenille will always do in a 1x1 rib. Maybe it will just always be flat. It's just so bizarre to me. It doesn't pull in at all. It's just, I don't know what to do. I might see if I can find a crochet stitch that can give me the effect I want, that doesn't look like flat stockinette, that I can make work with just 155 grams of this yarn. Now that would solve the stitch count problem too, because then I could just crochet the body of the vest and then just pick up however many stitches I wanted for the ribbing and just go from there. So maybe that is the way forward. But I don't know. I think my next step, if I'm going to go forward with knitting it, my next step is to make a swatch that I can measure and weigh and calculate from of just this. If I go forward with wanting to crochet it, then I can actually go back to all of my pattern books again and look at the crochet versions, because there are actually a lot more crochet patterns and stitch patterns for chevron-y, wavy kind of stripes than there are for knitting, at least in my collection. So that's my next steps on this. I still hope that it can be something that I can get done quickly once I figure it out, but I still gotta figure it out. Okay, let me clean this up and then we're gonna move on to my Patons Katrina. That was probably really convoluted. Was that too convoluted? Everything you see today is gonna be a tangled mess. Because I do reclaim all the yarn from all of my swatches, so I never cut it off. Not ever. Even if it was a wool that I needed to block, I would block it while being attached to the ball of yarn still. Next up is Patons Katrina. I thought I had 400 grams of this. I think I might actually have 5. I didn't get a proper weight before I started swatching, and some of my swatches are still on the needle, so I don't know what I actually have. But anyway, I was going off the assumption that I had 400 grams of this, which is plenty, I thought, to make a t-shirt. Now, this is a very satiny, smooth yarn. It looks very nice. It feels very nice. It behaves very not nice. Basically, this yarn is elastic. And I struggle to comprehend why. Not only why I bought it, but why they made an elastic yarn. So because I have quite a bit of this, and because it's kind of cool to the touch, like it's not a warm and cozy yarn, I thought it would make a great t-shirt. So I started looking at all of my t-shirt patterns and my short sleeve tanks and blouses and whatnot, and I found one that I actually got really excited about. So this is Brunswick Hits. This is volume 671. It is from 1975, although I have seen patterns from this in earlier pattern books. So I think this is a collection, and this pattern that I'm about to show you might actually be older. It looks kind of 60s to me. I don't know if it is or not, but this is what I decided I wanted to make. So there's, it's just a really lovely long blouse, sleeveless. It has a little bit of open work. It kind of looked like a fan or a shell, kind of like curvy kind of open design. But what also really appealed to me is that it seemed like the right balance between openness and structure. I started a swatch, and it is not a shell or fan or any kind of thing like that. It is pronounced purl bumps with some open work in between. So I did a little bit of stockinette down here just so I could see what that was going to look like. This part I think I did wrong. Up here we're a little closer to what it's supposed to be. And I am nowhere near gauge on this. And I think this is actually, this might be number 9. I think I did 8 down here, realized I was way too small, went up to a 9, still really too small. And so then I did another swatch on number 10 needles. And here we're a little closer to gauge. Now the thing about gauge on this one, whoops, I just lost my unraveled the whole thing. Such a tangled web I weave here. The thing about gauge on this is that the gauge is over pattern, but also the measurements are the blocked measurements. This yarn is never going to block out. Not only is it, you know, acrylic, what is it? Rayon and polyester. So not only is it completely synthetic, it's not going to block to any size other than what it is, but also it is elastic. So it's always going to pull in on itself. And I was trying to knit much more loosely than I usually do so that it had more, so that it wasn't getting knit in its stretched out length, but that's really hard to be consistent with. So I might need to go up a needle size if I'm going to continue with this. But I think I've decided I'm not going to, because as much as I really like this pattern, and this pattern has some interesting things, the ribbing, the neckline and the arm ribbing are actually a bias trim. So you knit it on the bias and then fold it over. I had never seen that before. So that was going to be challenging, and I wasn't sure how I liked that, but interesting. But also it actually has no purl rows. But there's two things about this. First of all, not getting gauge. What is it? Oh, that's what it was. So although this is closer to stitch gauge, I am nowhere near row gauge. And usually in a lot of my projects, that's okay because I'm knitting to a measurement. So if I'm not in row gauge, that's often fine. But on this one, because of, I guess because the way the stitch pattern is, I guess there's some kind of, it goes askew or something. So the armhole decreases are really weird, and they're not symmetrical because they're kind of, I guess they're making up for some kind of twist or bias in the fabric. So if I'm not getting row gauge, that's really going to affect that armhole shaping, and it's not going to work. But also this yarn being dense and not very squishy, these bumps are just really knobbly. I have very impressionable skin, so if I'm wearing this and I like cross my arms, I'm gonna have bumps on my arms that aren't gonna go away for like 20 minutes. But I don't think I like the feel of it, and like, I don't know. So as excited as I was to make that blouse, this is not the yarn for it. So I went back through a lot of my patterns looking for other t-shirts, and I have quite a few. I've been looking at my cotton patterns. There are several, like, let's see if I can get all of these on camera at once. So we've got these that all have some nice open work, and I liked this one too. Yeah, let's see here. They have a little bit of structure, a little bit of open work, but I'm not sure I actually want any of these. And I went to this one. This is another Brunswick. This is Cotton Sunshine. I do really like this pattern, but I decided I didn't want this kind of straight across the neck thing in this yarn that's like a little bit unforgiving. Like, it's just not soft, and like I would probably notice it too much. But the one that I decided I liked in here is this one with the V-neck back. I just thought that was going to be really, really cute. And so I made a swatch of that one. And again, oh, we're attached. Not working. So I went up a needle size and we are still not working. So here we see it's just really suffering from the elasticity. Like, no matter what I do, it is just massively, massively puckering. And I'm not gonna like that. And I could keep going up needle sizes, but like, then I'm just gonna be out of gauge, and it's just not going to work. So that one got nixed. Then I thought, okay, and I showed you this one in my in a previous video when I was looking through some patterns. I thought I would try this tank top. This one I'm still on the fence about. So I did a swatch of that one. Oops, I need a little bit more. So here, there's a couple different, this one's a little bit more complicated. There's multiple patterns. I did a little bit of stockinette just to see what that was going to look like on this needle size. This is the section of the pattern that goes on the sides. Kind of like that. I think that's a decent amount of open work. And it's definitely showing it's definitely pulling in and puckering, but in a reasonable amount. And then there's the cable part. Now here I did it too close to the edge, so I couldn't really tell what that was going to look like. So I came up above, and most of that tank top is in a 1x2 rib. So I did the 1x2 rib with some of the cable. Now, once again, I didn't do the full cable. I did some shorter bits here just so I could see what it was going to look like. It almost works. But again, I think we're suffering from the part that, like, this is never going to relax. It's never going to be anything other than this. Like, I can stretch it out, but it's not going to block out. These cables are always going to pucker to this degree. So, and granted, my bind off is a little too loose here. So this could work. Like, we've got a great stitch definition on these cables, but I don't know if it's just, I mean, it doesn't have the ease, and like easiness is what I'm getting at. It doesn't have, like, it just, I don't know if it's going to work right. And again, it is kind of heavy. So it's just weird. It's just weird, man. I'm not having good luck with this yarn. So I don't know if I should go forward with this, or I think what I might need to do is go back to the drawing board and go through my patterns again, looking for something different. So because of the thickness of this yarn being closer to a DK or a worsted, I was looking at all of my summer cotton patterns that use sport DK worsted weight yarns. Ravelry lists this as an Aran weight, which I really didn't understand for a long time, but I think that might be because you probably do need to knit it on larger needles to counteract that elasticity, because I think what you want is for it to be knit up in its relaxed state, and then it could stretch. So I think I need to go back through my patterns and look at Aran weight sweater patterns that I could do without the sleeves, or, you know, modify to short sleeves. Because I don't think I have t-shirt patterns in Aran weight. I don't know if this is making sense, but this yarn is just proving way more challenging than I thought. And this one is just really disappointing. Like, that is just so disappointing. Look at that. Like, that's how elastic this yarn is. So if you are the kind of person who likes negative ease in your knitted garments, this is the yarn for you. Because it's going to give you negative ease no matter what the pattern is. But it does make stitch patterns like this just look really funky. And they're not working for me. And even if I decided it was a good way to use up this yarn, it's not a good use of this pattern. Like, if I'm going to make this pattern, I want it to be in something that's going to look the way I want it to. So the two projects I was most excited to work up and get out of my way and, like, finally do something with, the two patterns that I was just most excited about making are the two biggest fails right now. And I'm not entirely sure what to do next. I just have to go back to the drawing board and find a different pattern that's really going to play to the strengths of this yarn while minimizing its weaknesses. Now, the next two that I'm going to talk about are two of the very first patterns that I put on my list of things I wanted to knit up. Again, we're on patents. This is Patons Allure Fashions. It is book number 489. It is from 1987. There's a few in this book that I want to make, including this one. And this crocheted jacket. But the one that's on my list right now is this one. This is called Come Hither Glance, and it uses Patons Allure yarn and Patons Cotton Pearl, or Perle. It's got an accent mark on the E. I don't know. So originally I thought, because of the color gradation, and I had in my stash already, I thought I would use Lion Brand Shawl in a Ball. I have the rainbow one that I thought was going to look really nice with this. And then I needed to figure out what to use for the black. So because I was using Shawl in a Ball, I went, what did I do? So this was like 2 years ago. I went to Michael's. Oh, I should actually just show you the yarns before we get to the swatch. I actually have a bigger ball of this. This is just part of the colorway. I think it's called Restful Rainbow. I had used the blue and purpley part already, but I do have a whole additional ball of this one. So this is what I was going to use for the main part of that. And then I went to Michael's looking for a substitute for the black. Very limited choices. And I ended up with this one. Now, this is Loops and Threads Heathered Tweed. It is, what is it? What are you made of? Polyester, acrylic, and 4% wool. According to Ravelry, the Patons Cotton Pearl is a DK weight. And, well, so is this, in theory. You know, it's a, what is it? Are you it's like a chain blown, I don't know. It's a very strange yarn, but it feels nice. And I thought it might work, but it was also kind of the only option that I could find at the time. Anyway, this is what I thought I was going to do. And it has been on my to-do list for a couple of years now, but I never tested it out. Then in that time, I found the original yarn. This is my Patons Allure. I found 4 balls of this in the colorway. Let me show you. Yep. Let me get the picture up. In the actual colorway in the picture. Couldn't believe my luck. It also worked out to $5 a ball. Now this is 50% mohair, 50% acrylic. And as a side note, this is where I noticed that there is a distinct difference between products for Patons North America and Patons UK, because I already had Patons Allure in my stash from 20 years ago, and it looks like this. This is 100% nylon. This is Patons North America Allure. This is Patons UK Allure. And that pattern book was printed in Canada, so I guess it makes sense that they have the UK version. So this one's definitely nicer. This is also from the 80s, and this is from the mid-2000s. So just thought I would point out, if you are looking for a Patons yarn, you are going to want to make note whether it is Patons North America or Patons UK, because they clearly reused names for some reason. Anyway, so yeah, I found the original yarn. I still wasn't quite sure if I was going to use this or stick with the Shawl in a Ball, so I did my swatch using both. And if we are not too, we're still attached. And here is, so we gotta go this way. Here is my swatch. Nope, come here. Too many strands of yarn. And here is my swatch. So I did a little bit of stockinette in the tweed just so I could see what it looks like. Here we have the Shawl in a Ball, and here we have the Patons Allure. Now, really gratifying to note that the central strand of the Shawl in a Ball is almost identical to the central strand of the Patons Allure. The difference is the Patons Allure has a very pronounced mohair halo, and I have now decided that that definitely is preferable in this particular stitch pattern. So I am going to go forward with using the original yarn for this one. But I am pleased with my substitution choice. Like, that is pretty good. Like, if I were to hold a very fine strand of mohair with the shawl in a ball, I would almost exactly match this. Granted, it would make it a little bit thicker, but like, yeah. However, I'm still not sold on the heathered tweed. So not only am I not sure about the tweediness of it, I don't know that I like the white sticking out in there. I think it also definitely has a different drape. Now, if you look closely here, again, vintage pattern, I have one picture to work from. But if you look closely down here, you can see how fine that little bit of ribbing is. Now, they're probably going on bigger needles, but it looks fine and drapey. These black stripes, they're kind of falling into the background, whereas these are very pronounced. So even though, according to Ravelry, both yarns are a DK, we have the issue of, you know, this one just not behaving in the same way. It's not as drapey. So I have been kind of having a dilemma of whether I want to move forward with this yarn or not. Because again, my shopping capacity is extremely limited where I live. And although maybe I could find something online, I'm not going to know if it's right. I'm not going to know if it feels right. I'm not going to know if it's going to drape right. I have looked. I can't find any black Patons Cotton Pearl online right now. Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to move forward with this. And it's kind of a bummer because if I just decide to do with this yarn, I could probably finish this sweater pretty quickly. It's got pretty much no shaping. There's no sleeves. It's really just the neckline and like trying to connect the second ball of yarn in a manner that allows the stripes to match up. Other than that, oh, and the front and back, I think are the same. Are they the same? There's no diagram. So I continue as given for back until the neck might be a little bit different. Anyway, I could probably finish this really fast. Like, it's a really simple, beginner-friendly project. But I just can't commit to this. Now, where I live, there is one fairly new little yarn shop. And I finally made it in there the other day. Usually I don't bother with those because they're like nice high-end yarns and I'm looking for cheap vintage projects. But I wanted to see what they had. They did have a Pima cotton that tempted me. And it was like $11 a skein, which, you know, I got this one for $5. Although I might have paid $8 or $9 for this one. I don't remember. But anyway, the pattern calls for just 2 balls of the Allure and 4 balls of the Cotton Pearl. So I was thinking, oh, $11, I need 4 of them. I can't spend $40 more on this sweater. But I didn't realize those are 100 gram skeins and the Cotton Pearl is 50 gram skeins. So in actual fact, I would only need 2. And since this sweater is supposed to only use 2 of these and I paid $5 each, I could get 2 skeins of that black Pima cotton and end up with a $30 sweater. Much more reasonable. So I might go back to that yarn shop tomorrow, in fact, and see about substituting that black yarn. Because that might be literally my only other option besides moving forward with this. But I'll probably take my swatches and all of these yarns and like ask their opinion because, you know, I can't swatch that one up without buying it. So this one hopefully could be the next one I do. Hopefully this is what I make next. I just have to make a decision about this yarn substitution. And, you know, this one could be fine. Like, it's not going to drape or look exactly the same as in the picture, but that doesn't mean it would be unpleasant. So that is the Patton's Allure sweater, the Come Hither Glance. Let me know what you think. What would you do in this situation? The other one that I decided 2 or 3 years ago to make and bought all the yarn for. Let me dig out this one. So the pattern is already on the table. I want to make this one. We have another Brunswick. I have a lot of Brunswick patterns. Love them. Anyway, this is volume 832, Cotton Coolers. It is from 1984. So this pattern it looks very simple and it's plain stockinette, but it has a really odd construction. So even though I bought all the yarn for this like 2 or 3 years ago, I felt like I had to push it down my list because of the odd construction. This is a rare vintage pattern that does have a diagram. Here we go. I've read through this a couple times. I'm still a bit of a pattern reading noob, so I don't always comprehend them until I get in there and just do it. I have to like get hands-on experience of what, translating the words to my actual knitting. But it seems like it starts here at the neck, and then you're putting these stitches on hold, you're putting these stitches on hold, you're putting these stitches on hold, you're putting these stitches, no, these don't go on hold. So you finish a sleeve and then you go back and pick these up, you go back and pick up the other sleeve. All the while you are adding increases down the center. And then when you pick them back up, you're just finishing up that little triangle bit. So it's a really odd construction that I didn't feel like I was ready for, and I'm still not sure that I'm ready for it. But this one might be the closest to being ready to go. So what yarn did I get? Well, when I was shopping for my Cool Times Barbie sweater, I was getting the Lion brand Kobu and was really falling in love with it. And it was at a time when they were getting rid of older colors, introducing new colors, and some of those colors were going on clearance. So I was able to get quite a bit of it for really low prices. So I got Lion brand Kobu yarn in 6 colors. I have a 6-color rainbow here. It looks like candy right now, honestly. Now because I was making my Cool Times Barbie sweater, it's white. I was maxing out on the idea of a white sweater. I was a little too afraid to have another white sweater, so I decided to go with tan as my main color. And then purple's my color, so like, how can I not want to include purple in here? And the Kobu line did come out with a purple yarn. So I did buy all 6 rainbow colors. For the red, this one is terracotta and orange. This one is called peach. Yellow we have for green, lichen. For the blue, what are you called? Got a clearance sticker covering it up. I don't know. I think it's like ice blue, and the purple is lilac. This has been sitting in my closet for 2 years, waiting until I was ready to knit this sweater. And I'm not sure I'm ready yet, but if I can't get one of these other projects figured out, then I might have to just buckle up and do this. So I did finally make my swatch. Now I needed to test out not only needle size, but colors. Here we have the recommended needle size. Not getting gauge here, way too big, but I have decided I am really happy with the tan. I was a little worried that it wasn't gonna look right, but I feel like it actually makes it look a bit more retro. I do wish the yellow was a little paler. I have always been confused by the color palette of Lion brand Kobu because all of these colors, like, they don't all go to each other. And when you have such a limited palette, it's really weird if they don't go with each other, but it's acceptable. So then I switched to a smaller needle and did a bit with the purple. And so I'm getting gauge here. I think we're pretty good there. Would be nice if I was actually a little smaller. If I was knitting a little bit tighter than gauge, because it is going to stretch out. So I might try a smaller needle just to see what that gets me. But pretty much all I need to do is decide whether or not to include the purple. And I can't decide. And it does look good with the purple, but it does look a little more retro without, because for whatever reason, in the 80s, the vast majority of 80s rainbows don't have purple. And if you don't believe me, just take a look at Rainbow Bright. Yes, there is Shy Violet, but there is no purple anywhere on Rainbow Bright's outfit. So what do you think? We're very attached right now. We've got some like unicorn spaghetti here. What do you think? With or without the purple? What would you do? Either way, after knitting up this swatch, I got really excited for this sweater. I think it's going to be really nice. And I was a little bummed. I had the thought, since it's so much stockinette, I thought, well, maybe I can do this on my knitting machine. Although my knitting machine doesn't get a very fine gauge, so maybe not. But doesn't matter, because of the odd construction where you're knitting across this way and increasing 2 stitches in the middle of every row. And my machine I'm not going to be able to do that. I would have to move half of my stitches every single row. And so, yeah, I can't machine knit this one. That would have been really nice though. So that is the Brunswick Rainbow Pullover. And do I have another one to talk about? There are a couple other projects on my Operation Clean Slate list. I have a Granny Square, I guess I've never showed you this, so maybe I can. Lion Brand homespun Granny Square project in a bunch of different colors. There's greens, there's a couple like this, a couple different blues that I've been working on for a couple of years now. That is on my Operation Clean Slate. I really do need to get back to work on that one. I also, back to Lion Brand Kobu, have to figure out my granny cardigan. So originally I was going to make a granny hexagon cardigan. Didn't like how it was working out. Didn't like the shape and the weight. Like it just wasn't for me. So I ripped it out. I made a baby version for my baby niece and kind of scratched that itch, and I don't need a granny hexagon cardigan, but I still have all of this pinky beige color Kobu yarn that I still really want to make a cardigan with a granny stitch. And I had made this little test piece because I'm kind of thinking I could make it like a one piece kind of stripe where you get the bend around the corners under the arms, but going straight across the back. I don't know. I explained it in a previous video, but this is all of that yarn. So this is also on my Operation Clean Slate. This is yarn that is designated for a project. It is a specific project. So I need to get this done too. And I also have a couple of sewing projects that are on Operation Clean Slate. One of them is actually new, brand new fabric, relatively new thing, but kind of high priority. This chair is a vintage chair, and this is a sheet. I have some fabric now that I can like properly cover these cushions once I can get sewing, assuming that this piece of fabric is big enough, because it's going to be tight, but I think it will work. And yeah, I've got another little plushie that I want to make. And then I do have needlepoint projects, one that I have been promising for like 2 years. This is why once I like clean my slate, I'm not promising anything new. I'm waiting till things are done before I promise them. So I had a needlepoint stitch along that I wanted to do with you guys. And I started promising it a couple years ago, and I have painted the canvas for it, and I filmed a video for that, but I didn't want to put any videos up for this until I could do it all at once. And because of the nature of the video, I needed a very stable camera on my stitching. Took me a long time to figure that out. Finally figured it out, got a little bit done, and then I kind of lost my consistent access to that space. So I didn't feel like I could film that there anymore, and it got shelved again. Well, now I've kind of got that access back, but now I gotta refigure out how I had my setup so I can do that again. But that is another one on Operation Clean Slate, is my stitch along needlepoint project. And then I've got some other needlepoint projects that they're kits, but they're ones that I keep. Well, there's several that are needlepoint, and then there's a cross stitch one that I have put on my episode calendar each summer for the last 2 or 3 years, and then keep running out of time. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to them this year, but they are on my list because they are just, I keep trying to get to them and I keep failing. Yes, I have a whole bin of kits to work on, projects that are ready to go, but these are ones that I've put on my to-do list, put in my queue, and then had to remove again because they're seasonal and I ran out of time. So anyway, that is a slight rundown of some of my current projects that I'm trying to figure out, things that are on my Operation Clean Slate list. And this is not an extensive list, but just to share with you that it's not only about the projects that I had started that I wanted to finish, it's also about the projects that I had queued that I keep delaying. I want to stop delaying on these specific projects. There are some new ones that I'm really excited to add to this list, but I have to knock at least one of these off first. So let me know what you think I should work on. Let me know your thoughts on some of these. For the chenille vest, do you have any advice on how to figure out a 1x1 rib in a chenille yarn? And in the Katrina, like, what are your thoughts on using this elastic yarn? Like, I've got to go back to square one on finding a pattern for this stuff. Just strings everywhere. And then for these, what would you choose? Would you go forward with this tweed or spend $25 more on some cotton yarn? And with or without the purple? What do you think? I don't know how to decide. I love it without the purple, but I love purple. I don't know what to do. So let me know what you think of these projects and what you might do. And meanwhile, I am going to have to do some more swatching. I gotta swatch Katrina more, and I gotta swatch this one in crochet, I think. Okay, so hopefully I can decide what to cast on within the next few days. Because I really got to get going on a project. And if you're wondering why my last video was what it was, well, yeah, it's because I'm falling behind on everything while I try and figure out my next knitting project. And my next video is probably also going to be a scramble because, yeah, these are going to take me a while. I have done enough talking for one day, and I am really glad that you were here to hang out with me. And get buried in swatches with me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.